On this day last year, Town won late against a team in gold to keep alive their promotion aspirations. They now head to the Midlands this Saturday, looking to do similar to kickstart the battle for survival. Welcome to Blue Monday, an Ipswich Town podcast. We need to be like goldfish. I'm going to quote Ted Lasso a lot tonight, Seb. Every game on its own merits. Ignore what's gone before. I know you look at the league table and all that kind of stuff. Bournemouth last week, we're putting it out of our minds, aren't we? We're going to be the goldfish and we're looking ahead to Wolves. How's your week been? Welcome back with internet, Seb.
I turned the router off about 7:30 to give it a reboot before this. And I sent you the Jurassic Park meme, didn't I? Of hold on to your butts. And there was a panic when it seemed to take slightly longer than normal to reboot. But thankfully, after 5 days of no internet in 2024, they managed to get it back working. So I'm back with working audio and lights and good view and less double chins than last week. So welcome, everybody. Let's talk about Wolves.
Let's talk about Wolves. Yeah, let's say hello to the chat as well. Paul is here. We really need something from this match. We will be talking about the importance of it. Certainly, Paul, shortly. Otherwise, with what we've got coming up, he says we will be cut adrift. Michael here as well. Sunny Brisbane, and he has internet too. Happy days. Neil, Mahusive game. Hashtag believe. There's the Ted Lasso as well. Loving that. Gary is here. Really looking forward to Saturday. Evening to John. Hope over expectation at this point, but there you go. It's the hope that kills you. There's 3 Lasso quotes. If you've watched back last week's pre-match show, by the way, Seb set me a challenge to quote a film from the 90s, and I did pretty well, didn't I, Seb?
You did excellently. I had a couple of humdingers lined up as well, but with the internet situation, I completely threw myself and forgot to do it. But yeah, you did get a few references in there. Are you going to reveal what the film was?
No, if you watch back or if you paid attention and got it yourselves, I suspect it might be a bit niche. It's a big enough film, but not necessarily one that everyone has fond memories of. It's kind of a kids' film from the 90s. Then let us know in the comments if you clocked that one. But evening to Streaky, Paul. I need positivity, please. We're going to bring that. I was going to quote Partridge there. I need kind of 2 positives, one to undo the negative. Anyway, evening to Jem, evening to Chris, Rob, Colin is here. What else have we got? Adam, an important game. Need to keep up the performances and hope that a few decisions fall our way. We'll talk about the referee later on. Michael's never seen Ted Lasso. Oh, Apple TV Plus, get involved, Michael. You'll love it. John quoting the hope that kills you, as we talked about before. Greg is here from Wellington, New Zealand. Evening to Lynn. Ben Southgate is here from hot Sydney. It's not hot here, Ben. Great to have you. Finally made a live pod. Absolute pleasure to have you with us, Ben. Thank you for joining. And Horsehollerer, I think that'll round it out. Oh, there you go, Chris. That will round it out for now. We will check in with the chat throughout the night, though, so give us your views. And we will try and keep, this pre-match show is very much matter of fact. We will be reflecting the state of play for Wolves, trying to give you the insights. If you're a Wolves fan watching, you're very welcome. Let us know whether we've gone right or wrong and try to do so in as respectful manner as you can. But we are here to give people the inside track and some stuff they can quote and look really clever in front of their mates. But we'll try and do it in as objective as way as possible until maybe we talk about us, in which case we might get a little bit personal, emotional as we do. The week that's just been said, not a huge amount of news to talk about. There was the AGM on Monday, I think it was. Usual stuff that we've probably heard a few times now from the assembled masses from the club board, etc. Anything you want to draw? Friendly in the US may happen. That's probably the exciting thing, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was the big takeaway, wasn't it? The rest we've kind of heard, Cobbold's further down the line. They're going to rebuild the Pioneer first a little bit to house the Cobbold residents while they do that. Sounds like a new sponsor for the front of shirt is pretty close to being announced. But I thought the US friendly sounded quite good. We know Kieran McKenna likes Austria as a training camp, doesn't he? So I don't think they were suggesting it would be next summer, but potentially summer 26, when obviously the World Cup will be in the US as well. Maybe a good chance to tie that in with the kind of the soccer wave that will be going on over there at the time. And yeah, I'd love a few US friendlies. That'd be brilliant. A little trip in the summer would be great to follow them. not sure about Phoenix. Isn't it like
Be
100
hot.
degrees in Phoenix? Yeah.
Yeah,
So somewhere more, one of those nice air-conditioned stadiums or something somewhere
if
with
it
a roof
was,
close.
yeah, if Sydney's hot, then what is Phoenix in the summer? So keep your eyes peeled there. But yeah, TWTD, our friends at EADT, we need to give a shout out, by the way, Kings of Anglia. Congratulations on their 500th episode. We're closing in on 900, said before the end of the season. 900 episodes. What have we been doing with our lives? Well, 900 episodes of podcast, keeping people informed. If we're looking for positivity around the club, certainly off field, there is still the sense of things moving in the right direction, the rocket ship that Mark Ashton talks about. But ITFC women having a fantastic season so far. In cup action, last week's game against Bournemouth in the cup was postponed, so the cup takes priority. So it's been rescheduled to this coming weekend. So do head down to the Martello ground in Felixstowe and give the girls your support. 1 p.m. kickoff there, and a great draw in the next round. So if they do get past Bournemouth, who are the tier below but have gone the season unbeaten, I believe we did play them in pre-season and win, but if we do get past Bournemouth, if an exciting tie that in your part of the world you might actually attend, right?
I will be. Yeah, I'll be going to Man City away. Was it?
Hopefully,
hopefully, if they get past Bournemouth, was it 3 years ago? It was Man City. Was that 4 years ago? Is it even? I've lost track of.
Yeah, something like
yeah.
2020, 21, I think maybe.
They play at the kind of academy stadium next door to the Etihad, don't they? Part of the Etihad campus. So yeah, fingers crossed they get through, and I'll be making the relatively short jaunt for me to pop across there and see them. Fingers crossed they get the right result on Sunday.
Yeah, and congratulations to Joe Sheehan, who's nominated for Manager of the Month. There was a vote that the league were conducting that I think is now closed. And if you want to get involved in the Women's Official Supporters Club as well, their nominations for their committee for the new 2025 year is on Monday. At ITFC WSE on social media. Get involved there. I've been involved in media and comms and will be stepping away from that. So if that's something that might excite you, want to get involved in spreading the word about the great stuff that the women's team are doing and the supporters club are doing, then do get involved in that. And also looking for a secretary as well. But all interested in involvement in the committee, very welcome there. So do check that out and get involved. Should we get on in double quick time to Wolves, Seb? We were watching an old version of our Prematch Show podcast. It took us about 20 minutes to get onto the game, didn't it? So we're brutally efficient these days. And Wolves, let's get this out of the way and let us know your views in the chat. This is a must-win game and a 6-pointer, isn't it?
I think so. Kieran McKenna didn't like to use the term 6-pointer in the pre-match presser today, did he? He said, I won't be referring to any games like that, but I think we're at must-win territory. We've not used it. We've not brought it out so far this season. We've had quite a few must-not-lose, but I think this is must-win. It's a side that's level with us on the same number of points at the bottom of the league. It's not a happy home life amongst the Wolves fan base, given the ownership model and the manager, which we'll discuss shortly. So, yeah, I think if you need to win a game, I think it is must-win. It's definitely a 6-pointer, and yeah, I think we can file this under the must-win category. Personally, do you agree with me on that one?
I think so. Now there is a bit of gap to the team in 17th. I think we can't afford to not pick up points anymore. Losing is not good at any point in the season. But with the games we have coming up, and we'll talk about Wolves' fixture, they're not exactly friendly in December, January, is it? But I just think we don't want to be cut adrift, and we certainly need to be beating the teams around us. We can't seemingly do it at home, so let's bloody do it away. And as you said, another cliche, we'll lob this into the mix too. Is it a good time to play Wolves? Gary O'Neill very much trying to keep his job, isn't he, against the odds? Away fans not happy at the Everton defeat, quite understandably, I suspect. But there's a lot of mitigating circumstances and external stuff that he's having to deal with, Gary O'Neill, isn't there, Seb?
There is, yeah. I mean, they've got this kind of ownership group, Fosun. They were the lot that bought them when they were in the Championship back in 2017 and kind of bankrolled the promotion. Had a couple of 7th place finishes when they first got back to the Premier League. Had a European double under Nuno Espirito Santo, but they've kind of changed their philosophy. They want the club to become self-sustaining and kind of fund itself. And I think it's fair to say the writing was on the wall for what was going to happen this season at the back end of last season. They only won one of the last 10 games under Gary O'Neill. Gary O'Neill comes in on the eve, really, of the 23-24 season. They had Julian Lopetegui, who they kind of got them across the line, and then had a fallout with the ownership. Gary O'Neill took over, I think it was something crazy, like 3-4 days before the start of the season, and did okay. But second half of last year, they really tailed off. They have FFP issues over the last couple of years that we'll discuss, and that results in massive asset sales, and they're not really replaced to a same degree of quality level. And they've just started this season just as poorly as they ended last season. Obviously, they're level on points with us, 9 points apiece. They are one place below us because they have a goal difference worse of -2. They've played 15 games, only won 2 all season, drawn 3, lost 10. They do score goals, 23 goals scored, 8th highest goal scorers in the league, but they do concede. 38 goals is the highest number, by 7 ahead of Southampton. So wow. They are very porous and very leaky at the back. This calendar year, this popped up on the West Ham, the Monday night football game when they were playing midweek. It was the battle of the two sides that had conceded the most goals in the calendar year, and the 2 goals that Wolves let in on Monday night means they've conceded 72 goals in the year of 2024, which is the highest in the division. So far, exactly, yeah, with what, 4 games, I think, still to go before 2025 kicks in. So they are incredibly porous at the back. I'm sure our watching audience will have seen the Bournemouth game at Molineux a few full weeks ago, where they conceded 3 penalties, some kamikaze shambolic defending, and I guess you kind of factor in the poor end to last season, the sale of key players, the poor start to this season. Presumably, you'd expect the manager to be moved on. They were billing the Monday Night Football as El Sacchio, weren't they, between Lopetegui and Gary O'Neill? But they've come out, I think it was on Tuesday, the Wolves kind of board have come out and they've kept him in post for the weekend, and not sure how much longer he will be there if he continues to produce results like he currently is. But the fan base clearly want to change because things are not going well at all.
Let's take a punt on this. He loses to us on Saturday. He's out, isn't he?
I would have thought so. Surely you wouldn't survive that, would you? You know, it's one thing losing to, we'll discuss the West Ham result shortly. One thing losing to West Ham away, but if you lose to the side directly above you, level on points, who's just come up from League One a couple of seasons ago, yeah, I think if he loses to us, there'll be a picture of a corner flag on the Wolves website pretty early on Monday morning.
Yeah, that would be my take on it, and therefore there's a lot riding on this for Gary O'Neill. Can he galvanise that team to go again and to get a result against us? Because if the players are not behind him, if the dressing room is split, that's a real problem anyway for Gary O'Neill or whoever replaces him. But you would hope that we will be massively motivated to go there and get that result, and it gives us an opportunity, doesn't it? So
if we can score early, at Molineux, then we know the crowd will turn. You know, in the Bournemouth game, you had the keeper Jose Sarr at half time being held back by stewards as he was arguing with somebody in the crowd. So the potential is there to get a lot of toxicity coming from the watching fans. If you can score early or take the sting out of the game, you know, pass the ball around, frustrate the home crowd, I don't think it will take much at all to tip them over the edge, and that could really go in our favour.
And we know that it's a passionate fan base, as clubs in the Midlands tend to have. I remember a certain Mick McCarthy losing his job after a defeat to West Brom in the Black Country Derby. So who knows? And I think I've been to I went to we'll talk about Wolves, our history against Wolves in a bit. I don't want to spoil that. We'll talk about Mick McCarthy under the cosh, by the way. I don't know if anyone's listened to that and some of his stories from his time watching, managing Ipswich, but recommend that. Let's keep things present. Give us the home situation, Seb.
So they're 19th in the league with 4 points from 7 games. Played 7 at Molineux, only won 1, drawn 1, lost 5. Scored 11 goals, conceded 18 goals at home in those 7 games. That's the most goals conceded at home in the division. Their last 5 at home is 1 win, Southampton, 1 draw, Crystal Palace, and 3 defeats, Bournemouth, Man City, and Liverpool. And I guess, is this just the latest example of a club that gets promoted 5, 6, 7 years ago, kind of has an initial promotion bounce, does well, but slowly things start to unravel? You know, the manager that got you up moves on. You start to sell kind of key assets. You don't replace them. The league position starts to drop, not dramatically, but you know, you go from 7th to 10th to 13th to 14th to 16th. And I guess they're just the latest example of a side that spent a few years at this level. And now, given the desire of the ownership group to become self-sustaining, they are kind of now in a relegation battle and potentially could be a side that drops out, like we saw with Wigan, for example. You know, spent years at the top table and dropped down the leagues. It's not inconceivable that they will be playing championship football next season. And maybe it's just a kind of a circling the drain kind of situation. We've used that analogy before, haven't we? Circling the drain for a few years, and eventually you can't stop dropping through it.
They do strike in my kind of days as a football fan, Wolves were never Premier League. In certainly the 90s, even the noughties. I think there was a couple of seasons, wasn't there? I'm trying to think. It was Mark Kennedy was playing for them, and I think they had a couple of seasons where Doritos were their sponsor. So that it's not at least it's similar to Ipswich. It's not a team that's established as a top flight club over decades. Maybe before the 80s, before I started watching. Someone will inform us in the chat, and therefore the strategy to stay up there needs to be really clever and really smart. And you've seen that with Brentford and Brighton, haven't you? You just wondered, to your point, whether that, it needs a really, a smart director of football, for example. I'm just not sure if Wolves have that set up or not. But yeah, it does look a worry if I'm a Wolves fan. But I guess the easy fix is to get a new manager, isn't it? And that bounce might get you the points that gets you the right side of the line. And to be fair to Gary O'Neill, it is difficult to figure out whether he's a good manager or not. I quite liked what he was doing at Bournemouth. It sounded like he was quite unfortunate to be sacked there. And then we had Bournemouth fans in the comments last week saying, not a big fan of Gary O'Neill. And obviously they brought in Iraola and haven't looked back. Wolves, he had a kind of a really good start, didn't he? And then it's sort of tailed off, and you kind of wonder, is it too big a job for him now? But we'll talk more about Gary O'Neill later on. Let's do you want to give us the last time out, the game against West Ham, pick out anything that was important?
Yeah, so El Sacchio on Monday Night Football between West Ham at the London Stadium and Wolves. It was a 2-1 defeat for them. West Ham scored twice. It was a really low quality first half of football, I thought. The first goal was a header from Thomas Souček from a corner for West Ham. Awful defending by Wolves. We'll discuss their set piece weakness later on. We discuss their kind of style of play, but it's a really bad goal to concede. I thought they were a bit unlucky with VAR. I thought they had two perfectly good penalty decisions, which for some reason weren't given. There was a kind of a barge on somebody, if I remember rightly, that looked a penalty to me. And then one sort of later on in the game where somebody seemed to stand on somebody's foot, forgive me, I can't remember who the players were. And it just seemed to be pretty similar to the Schmodic away at Forest, which was obviously given in Forest's favour, but for whatever reason, Wolves didn't get either decision. They did equalise, good low finish from Matt Doherty, and then within 2 minutes, Jarrod Bowen went straight up the other end and scored. They had 19 shots, 5 on target, created 2 big chances. They won the XG battle, 1.47 XG to West Ham's 97. There's your 0.97. There's your real quiz. But yeah, I kind of saw at full time there was Mario Lemina was trying to pick a fight with pretty much anybody wearing a claret and blue shirt. João Gomez, the central midfielder who's played every game from the season, was yellow carded, so he is suspended. It was his 5th yellow of the season, so he's suspended at the weekend, which is useful for us. And yeah, I just saw the scenes at full time. I saw Lemina kind of lose his head trying to fight people, and I kind of assumed that Tuesday morning there'll be an announcement. Gary O'Neill's moved on. I presume we'd have a caretaker in charge for this one, and they would announce a manager shortly thereafter this weekend. But they've decided to stick with him. I think they got out there early. I think it was Tuesday. They said, he's gonna stay, and we hope to. I can't remember what the statement said, but it was something along looking to build for the January transfer window. And yeah, he's still in the building, which is a surprise because they weren't that great. It wasn't a great quality game of football. They were unlucky with the VAR, but I just think that the fragility of this side, to get yourself back in the game and then 2 minutes later go and concede, that would have alarm bells if I was a Wolves fan. Yeah,
and it would have been poetic justice had Gary O'Neill's tenure at Wolves ended in defeat to Julian Lopetegui, but obviously he lives to fight another day. Any more bits and pieces you want to draw to our attention? We kind of talked about last season, you're circling the drain phrase. Anything on Gary O'Neill that you want to
just his defeat rate kind of jumped out at me a little bit. He's managed 53 games, won 15, drawn 10, lost 28, 1.03 points per game, which is a 53% defeat rate. And it's now 3 wins in the last 25 matches. The final 10 of last season where he only won 1, and the 2 victories in the first 15 games of this season. And I was just thinking that in reality, managers, you just don't turn that run of form around, do you? You might have a Paul Jewell at Barnsley moment, which I think was actually this week, wasn't it? Whatever it was, 11, 13 years ago, where, you might think you've turned a corner, but in reality, 3 wins in 25, you ain't turning that round, are you?
No. I was going to try and back him, but I can't really. There's context there because Wolves will be a team, given the changing resources there, that will be struggling down the bottom of the league, and you're going to lose more than you win, but it doesn't feel sustainable. And we, of course, know, I don't know whether those stats were all competitions, but we do have relatively positive recent history against Gary O'Neill's Wolves. in the League Cup last season, Seb. If we're looking for some positivity to draw people's attention to, a comeback, wasn't it? And a thronker from Jack Taylor.
It was, yeah, 3-2 down in the whatever the League Cup was called last season. Amari Hutchinson, Freddie Ladapo, and a Jack Taylor worldie put us through to the next round to face Fulham. We've actually got the edge. It's 32 wins for Ipswich, 25 draws between the two, and 29 Wolves wins. So it is close, but we've not had many of these this season. One where we actually try to have where we actually do have a better head-to-head record. The last time we played them at Molineux was a 1-0 victory for Wolves back in December 2017. So that's the last season of Mick McCarthy, and that's the year they kind of were bankrolled to the to promotion to the Premier League. Our last win there was a 2-0 victory in December 2012, about 6 weeks, I think, 8 weeks maybe after Mick McCarthy took over. And guess which one I'm going to throw at you for the lineup quiz this week? Because there was no Blue Monday Rewind because we've never played Wolves in the Premier League before. So you can either have the 2017 or you can be really brave and take on the 2012. Which one do you want, my friend?
I love the 2012 because I was there.
Oh, were you? Oh, I hadn't factored that into. I forgot you used to live in the Midlands.
I lived in the Midlands. I just
right,
drove across. But I still going to be a makeshift team, isn't it? I think DJ Campbell and Aaron Cresswell scored the goals.
Yep.
I'd imagine Chambo was there.
Yep.
At that point.
It's 4-2 if that helps.
It's 4 what?
4-4-2 if that helps.
And when I need some help, after I've had a good start with the first 3. So Bart won't be there by that point.
No.
This is post duel, isn't it? So there'll be some loanees in there, won't there?
Yep.
Oh, Lee Martin.
Yes, left wing.
Well, I guess, is it a loanee goalkeeper? Stockdale or
no, the other one.
Henderson?
Henderson, yep. So you need the right back and the left-sided centre half.
Right, give us
Chambers.
some help.
Chambers playing in the centre.
Chambers in the centre.
I don't think you'll get the right back, but you should get the left-sided centre half. A stalwart of the playoff campaign. Had a competition with Christoph Berity, who could score the most goals that season.
Oh, Tommy Smith. Okay.
Tommy Smith, yep.
Neil said Ballard.
No,
I think he was involved.
I think he's gone. I think he was mutually consented at the start of that season. I think.
Yeah. Is it a loanee at right back?
It is. Yeah, it's a loanee. We only spent 1 month, I think, before the window opened, and we signed Richard Stearman.
Okay. Yeah. Pass.
Bradley Orr. You wouldn't have got
Bradley Orr. Okay, there you go.
Right wing was a player that Paul Jewell played at right back for about a season, and Mick McCarthy straight away moved him up the pitch. Yep.
Oh, Jets is Neil.
No.
DJ
Campbell's partner you should get. I think this was his third loan spell.
No, Daryl Murphy.
Permanently, yeah, Daryl Murphy. So 2 centre mids is all you need to get now. I don't think you'll get either of them.
And Dorr?
Yes, fair play. Yep, that's one of them. You won't get the other one. I'd be surprised.
Like Richie Wellens or something, isn't it?
No, I think he'd gone back at that point. I think he'd been gone back to Leicester.
Is it a loanee or a permanent?
It is a. That's a very good question. It's a permanent. Yeah.
Give us a clue.
I can't without giving it away. It's
Hyam?
No, Andy Drury.
Oh wow. Okay.
You wouldn't have got him. Yeah, that's
If you said Luton, I'd have got it off Luton probably.
Okay,
yeah, there you go. Well, I asked for it, and Mr. Ipswich Town, Adam Drury. That's the guy played for Norwich, by the way. But Andy Drury, close enough. I'll give you the point. I've got some fond memories of Wolves. I saw Adam Proudlock play on loan for Ipswich Wolves. He's ex-Wolves. He got a good reception. But I was going to mention that 2-0 victory at Molineux under Mick, where Solbakken had come in and couldn't get a tune out of them. I think they were in a post-McCarthy spiral, like we were destined to have after McCarthy left, which he didn't really refer to much on his Under the Cosh interview, which is kind of interesting. But I would have liked a little bit of self-reflection on the fact that he's left Millwall, Sunderland, Wolves, Ipswich, Blackpool, Cardiff, and there's always been a little bit of a spiral afterwards. He didn't really address that. It's kind of like, well, that ended up well, didn't it? But anyway, good for him. But yeah, that was a great win. That was typical smash and grab McCarthy win, and the home fans were kind of thinking, well, careful what you wish for, maybe. But any other Wolves memories for you? You haven't played.
I remember seeing Bart save a penalty there. It must have been 2016, start of that season, maybe.
The Chevron kit.
Yeah, Daryl Murphy scored from a corner and it was ruled out. Someone was
for no
offside
reason.
right on the line or something weird. And then about a week later, we sold him. But yeah, that's my one trip to Molineux I've done.
David Johnson's first town goal
debut. Did the splits? Didn't he? Was that the splits?
No, I think that was Portman Road a few weeks later.
Was it? Okay.
There you go. I'm surprised you didn't mention it. There you go. Some Wolves history. let's bring things back up to date as we usually do. I mean, there's money spent, Seb, but not, again, kind of not maybe less than us, isn't it? If you look at it, and some net spend.
Net spend is the crucial thing here. They've spent 2 years selling really key assets. So summer of 2023, not the season just gone, the season before, they sold Matthias Nunes to City, Ruben Neves to Saudi, and Nathan Collins to Brentford. So they lost 3 big players. They went out and signed Matthias Cunha, who we'll discuss shortly. But again, this season, they've seen some major asset sales. Pedro Neto went for 54 million quid to Chelsea. Max Kilman went to 40 million quid to West Ham. So again, they've kind of got this model of having to sell, I think, not so much this summer, certainly the summer 23 was kind of an FFP issue, and they do go out and spend money, but I'm not sure they've spent it overly well, to be honest. Andre, central midfielder, Brazilian central midfielder, has come in for £21 million from Fluminense. Rodrigo Gomez, a right forward / right winger, 15 million quid from Braga. Sam Johnston, 11-12 million pounds from Crystal Palace. We'll discuss the goalkeeping situation shortly because it's not gone very well. Pedro Lima, a young right back, 10 million from Recife. Tommy Doyle looked decent business. I think he was on loan there last season as part of that part of the Matthias Nunes deal. They signed him for 5 million quid from City, which I thought seemed a very good deal. And the centre forward, Jorgen Strand Larsen, is on loan from Celta Vigo. So yeah, second successive year, I would suggest, where they've kind of sold big assets, got decent money in, but not really invested to the same level of spending or the same level of quality. And I think it's starting to catch up with them.
Yeah. Should we talk about style of play then and how that personnel is used?
Yeah, let's do the Monday Night Football. Do you want to put the tactical pad thing on the screen? So this is how they lined up. This is the average player positions for the game against West Ham. Now, they've been flirting this season between a 3 at the back system and a 4 at the back system. So they got tonked by, after the Bournemouth game, the 4-2 tonking. They swapped it back to a back 3, promptly lost 4-0 to Everton, but stuck with the back 3 against West Ham. So Semedo, who is normally a right back, kind of tucked in at right centre back. Santiago Bueno and Totti were the other ones. So if I show you what they this is the average positions, and the movement I'm about to show you is the heat maps where they take the most touches. So you will see the 3 centre backs kind of split. Semedo goes quite wide back to his kind of normal right back kind of role. Bueno kind of goes over to that side with him, and Totti is left, which to me leaves a huge hole in the centre of the centre of the pitch, which might explain why they're so porous. The fullbacks do push up. Like I said, Doherty did score the equaliser at the London Stadium on Monday night. And Ait Nouri, we'll discuss shortly, is a big threat down their left-hand side. To compensate for the big gap left between those centre-halves, Andre and Lamina kind of drop back and provide the central kind of midfield screen in front of Jose Sarr, the goalkeeper. And then they kind of did this with the front 3. So Cunha and Ait Nouri are the big threat down the left-hand side. Unfortunately, last weekend, we discussed how big a threat Bournemouth were down their left-hand side with Semenyo. Cunha and Ait Nouri is the big threat for Wolves down the left-hand side here. They both love to run with the ball. They're both kind of heavy ball carriers, both got excellent dribbling stats. So that is where their major kind of threat will come from. It just struck me, I was surprised at how big a gap there was between those 2 centre-halves, which hopefully Liam Delap can exploit at the weekend.
Yeah, it might be one for Amari down that right-hand side for us, getting in behind Ait Nouri. But I agree with you. There's a big gap there in the middle that requires a midfielder to drop into. I wonder whether he might change it back. But yeah, apologies for those listening on podcast and the reason to come and join us on YouTube. We might do a screenshot. We might share it in Telegram. Come and join us over there if you want to see this. But yeah, it does look very right-leaning from their perspective, and some real gaps in there as well. Obviously, this is the heat map where the touches are rather than the average positions. Can you take us back to the start and see those average positions? Because I wasn't really, it looked like a bit of a hodgepodge of a back 3 / back 5, didn't it? If you factor Lamina as maybe a deep sitting midfielder, it is a back 4 by the look of it, but it looks a bit like a 5 as well. Not really
it's
sure.
Very congested. Obviously, the average positions there show they really like to congest the centre of the pitch.
Yeah, so maybe a day to go long for Delap if we can, if he's fit enough to do that job.
And like I said, they flirted between a 3 at the back and a 4 at the back, and that to me again smells of a manager in kind of desperation mode. You know, you just there's no consistency. You're just trying things to hopefully stumble across a system that works for you and buys you a bit of time. I would suggest.
Yeah. Any other bits and pieces? Any kind of stats that you want to draw our attention to?
Yeah, they're quite direct. 56 long balls per game is the third highest. I'm not talking League One style direct, but they do like to get the ball forward quickly. Not overly possession heavy. 46% possession is the 14th in the league. They are bottom for pressing intensity. So we had the highest pressing intensity team last weekend, and we're now going to face the bottom pressing intensity team. Real issue around set pieces, like I've already discussed. 13 goals conceded from set pieces is the worst by far in the league.
Score them, Seb.
Well, maybe this will be the weekend. We've become unlucky. Burgess hit the bar, didn't he? Spurs.
Yeah, and Delap
Dara
had the
O'Shea had a
VAR
couple
goal.
Dara O'Shea against Leicester had a couple. So perhaps
we were debating the last direct free kick scored, and we think it was at home to Accrington. I don't think we scored a direct free kick last season. Tell us in the chat if you can remember. Direct free kick goal.
Yeah, no, I can't think of. What was the Accrington? Was that Carl Edwards?
Carl Edwards, yeah. It was like 3-0 and they just had a man sent off, if I remember rightly. Sorry, keep going. Set pieces are
vulnerable from set pieces. 11 shots taken per game is the fourth fewest in the division, so they don't get that many shots off. Well, they do score quite a few goals, though, so they are clinical. 15 shots conceded per game is the sixth highest. They are a threat on the counter, which maybe suggests why those average positions were kind of congested in midfield, looking to break on teams quickly. 6 goals scored is the second highest in the league from counter-attacks. 21 tackles per game is the highest, and they are very foully. 13 fouls per game is the second highest in the division, and 40 yellow cards is the third highest. So yeah,
like Bournemouth last week, a bit foully or shithousey, but yes. We're doing our best to draw attention to these facts so ITFC can be prepared for them, but we can only do so much. If you listen back to Bournemouth, there was quite a profound bit of advice from Seb, which we are going to drop that feature from the podcast just to spare us the heartache of it coming true again. But you know, there's only so much we can do here on Blue Monday. We've key player Seb, a lot of chat in the chat about Matthias Cunha.
By far the biggest threat. Yeah, if they sell him in January, I think they're done, aren't they? 7 goals and 3 assists so far this season. Kind of the players, one of the 10s in behind the striker in the kind of the 3 at the back formation, or as the left-handed attacker in the 4-2-3-1. Created 9 big chances so far this season. Striker Jorgen Strand Larsen, 6 goals and 2 assists. Strong focal point of the attack. Ryan Ait-Nouri, like I said, the left back, 3 goals, 3 assists, likes to get forward. So perhaps Mr. Hutchinson can take advantage of the space in behind him. Mario Lemina, when he's not trying to fight West Ham players and his own coaching staff, is the defensive midfield screen. Averages 51 touches per game, which is Sam Morsey levels. It's a fair old big back 3/back 2. Santiago Bueno is 6'2". Totti is 6'1". Craig Dawson is still there. I think he's 34, 35 now. If he were to get a start, he's very susceptible to pace. And the goalkeeping situation is a real mess. They spent money on Sam Johnston in the summer from Crystal Palace. Was pretty poor, couldn't get going at all. They expected Jose Sarr to move to Saudi, but he didn't. They brought him back in. He had an absolute horror show in the 4-2 defeat to Bournemouth. Like I said earlier, was remonstrating with the fans at half-time, not full-time, at half-time. Held to be belted back by stewards. Had a shoulder injury before the West Ham game, but I think it was quite clear he wouldn't have played. Johnston came back for that game. Has no clean sheets so far this season. He's averaging 2.5 goals conceded per game. Sarr is conceding 2.6 goals per game, and Jose Sarr is -7 on the goals prevented stats. So yeah, very, very interesting goalkeeping situation going on there.
FXT Blues, Broadhead was the last free kick scorer, wasn't he?
Sheffield Wednesday, yeah.
That was League One, wasn't it?
So was Accrington.
Yeah, but Accrington was after Sheffield Wednesday.
Was it?
Yeah.
Okay. Right.
What was the score? Yeah, it was 6-0 Sheffield Wednesday. Oh, yeah. Accrington was like in March.
The Broadhead goal is the 2-2, isn't it?
The 2-2.
Not the 6-0. It's the 2-0 down to Sheffield Wednesday.
Yeah, that's Broadhead. What I'm saying. It wasn't, so it was in the League One season, which means Accrington was after it.
Right, okay, I see.
Yeah.
Right.
So but Broadhead did score a goal. Maybe another reason to get him in the team A, FXT. Any absentees? I mean, there's some names there that probably João Gomez is the one that I know. Not many kind of Kaladzic maybe as well.
Yeah, he's out. Gonzalo Gonzalez is out. Babacar Traore is out. Yerson Mosquera, the centre-back, is out for the season, which is a bit of a blow because I think he was doing okay for them before the injury. But the big one is João Gomez, 5th yellow card of the season on Monday night, which means he sits out the weekend, which is useful because he's pretty decent and he's played every game for them. So, yeah, that's a bit of a boost, that one.
Yep. As for final bit, before we talk about us, referee Simon Hooper, who has history with Wolves and history with Ipswich Town as it goes, was the man in the middle for Wolves for O'Neill's first game in charge against Man United, and should have given a penalty actually for Kaladzic, but didn't. And you seem to remember that the situation Onana was involved, wasn't he?
Didn't he run out in like the 90th minute and punch somebody?
Did
but
he?
I think they
He
thought in
knocked
real
him
time he got the ball, but when they showed the replays, he didn't. For some weird reason, I think Wolves got an apology from VAR for that. I think
They did.
Yeah,
and Hooper was left out of the refereeing rota the following week, so you don't get penalties, or you never did get penalties at Old Trafford, and that proved it. Hooper's last game in charge for an Ipswich fixture was our 2-0 win over Huddersfield that got us promoted back to the Premier League. The only thing that I think of instant there, he should have given a penalty for Chappers, shouldn't he? Or the chat will remind me. Seb didn't remember this.
We discussed this in the green room. I've got no recollection of this whatsoever.
I think Chaplin was shoved over, but I might have got my games mixed up. I might be wrong on that one, but yeah. Anyway, there you go. There was some Sarmiento-esque link with the referee from last weekend, who I thought was okay, but it had no positive bearing on the game. So we just draw your attention to these facts or what have you, and what will be, I guess. And on that very profound note, let's hear from our friends at Atwell's.
Blue Monday is proudly brought to you in partnership with our friends at Atwell Solicitors, your ideal legal partner for work on property or business law. Their client care has repeatedly been recognised as outstanding, and they are people-focused with a plain English approach which sets them apart. They have offices in Ipswich, Colchester and London, and to find out more, head to atwells.com.
Thank you to Atwells for their support of the podcast this season, and One Stop badges as well. We are slowly running out, but we do have supply. Seb will probably forget. So come and find me at Molyneux. If you see me, mention the podcast, and if I have a badge, I will happily let you have one. But if you want one for your podcast, charity, business, what have you, then click the link in the description, both on YouTube and in the podcast, and you can get 10% courtesy of us. Lovely promo for One Stop badges. In terms of other bits and pieces, the podcast, we're back at our normal time, Sunday, 8 p.m. Ben, Dave and Joe. You can also watch back the Premier League predictions feature from Ben and Mikey earlier in the week. And Christmas is coming. I might need to tie up the branding a little bit with some Christmassy bits, shouldn't I? Maybe I'll do that for Sunday if I remember in time. So we will keep you posted on what's happening between Christmas and New Year. Newcastle, usual deal. The guys will talk more about it on Sunday, but there will be a Blue Monday rewind. Pre-match may or may not be me. This is the last time, all being well, that you will see this particular wall. The prince will probably return as I'm moving house, but I don't have internet yet. So bit of jeopardy next week. Ben will probably stand in if we can't do it. And if you can't join us, if you can't attend the game and just want to join in the conversation, we very much recommend Telegram. But please, as always, thumbs up and a subscribe, 5-star rating or podcast app of choice makes a massive difference to us here on the podcast. So please, support us in that way. Let's talk about Town, Seb. Should we start at the back and work our way forward?
Let's have the debate. Go on.
Have I got to say it, or are you going to say it?
Would you play Muric or would you play Christian Walton? Obviously, Muric didn't cover himself in glory for the equaliser. Made a big save in the build-up to the winning goal. And there's been a lot of debate in our Telegram group, on TWTD, and on social media that it's time for Christian Walton to come in because Muric has made a few errors. So we'll start there. What's your view? Go. Or do you want me to do mine first?
I know what the chat is going to say, but you don't change the keeper.
Agree. Yeah, I'd play Muric.
Let's be honest. If Muric had made a save in that moment, there'll be zero conversation about it because there was nothing else in the game that was that justifies dropping him. So you can't pick out a single moment and say you're out. For me, the guys on the Flagship did a really excellent job of trying to have that conversation. I know people have got preferences or views on the keeper, but I just can't see at this stage how bringing in Walton has any positive purpose in respect of Muric, who we paid good money for. But people have really short memories, and there were doubts over Christian Walton, weren't there? I go back to Maidstone. It's just Yeah, it's not a great situation. I totally agree with that. I know that people haven't got a huge amount of confidence, but at times like this, I think we've got to get behind the players, haven't we? Whether we like them or not. If they're the players that McKenna is picking, and we have trusted the process, we've trusted him for the last 3 years, and it's seen us right. I don't see why it now would be any different. So I trust the manager to make the right choice. I'm sure he will. But what's your take, Seb? Any different?
No, I agree. I think Muric stays in goal. I thought, apart from Brentford, when was Brentford? Early October? Was it mid October? I can't remember. Whatever Brentford was, I think in the period after that, he has been playing really, really well. Huge save from Dom Solanke very late on at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. That incredible kind of pushed onto the bar from Murillo's header away at Forest. Okay, we lost the game, but if we'd have scrambled an equaliser, we'd be looking back on that as a big turning point in the game to stop Forest from going 2-0 up. I think his ability to come and claim the ball under pressure at free kicks and corners is really underrated, because it just takes so much pressure off if you're trying to hold on to something. And yeah, he had a complete rush of blood and he made a big error and he rushed out, and arguably, yes, he cost us a goal, but you could equally kind of blame, Ben Johnson for switching off in that scenario a little bit. There were other plays. I think, as McKenna said, there were other phases of play with other people to blame. And I just, like you can't, I don't think you can drop him, because if you do, and let's say Walton comes in and has a stinker, what are you going to do? Do you put the guy back in nets that you've just dropped and destroyed the confidence of? We kind of knew this in the summer when we got him. Burnley fans said he's a great shot stopper, but every 6-7 games, he's probably got a rick in him. And that's what happened against Bournemouth last weekend. So I don't think you drop him. I think Joe made a really good point on the Flagship, where he said, if he didn't make these ricks, you combine that with his shot stopping and his aerial ability, and he's probably got no chance of signing him. He's probably a 30-40 million pound goalkeeper who's not playing at Ipswich Town. So if you accept the good stuff, you've got to put up with if you accept the rainbow, you've got to put up with the who said that? So yeah, that's my take on it. I believe that they paid 9 million pounds for him. I think he stays in nets, and I think, that moment aside, I think he's been pretty decent in the last month, 6 weeks maybe.
Yeah. No one was talking about him before Bournemouth, as far the Palace goal admittedly looked very similar, but I don't think he had any choice. He had to commit. Mateta, who actually finished it really well, didn't he? So and Forest kept us in the game, didn't he, at Forest? But no one really talks about that. I think we've dealt with that debate. You're obviously, folks, your opinions you're absolutely entitled to them. Seb and I have provided our view, and we can see folk have done likewise in the chat. So as long as you keep it respectful, everyone's entitled to their view. The right back situation then, Seb, what's your take?
Well, obviously, Tuanzebe's not available, so it's Clark or Johnson. I thought Ben Johnson looked a bit rusty against Bournemouth. Thought he struggled against Semenyo, but Bournemouth's left-hand side was a big threat last weekend. And I just think Johnson's played 70 Premier League games. I think you stick with him. You've got to try and get your most experienced Premier League players onto the pitch. He's one of them, so I'd stick with him at the right-back position.
Yeah, he did look rusty, not necessarily fit. Similar to Calvin Phillips, by the sounds of it, according to McKenna's press conference today. Yeah. It's whether there's a player in Harry Clark, isn't there? And that mobility up and down the line. We talked about the threat down our right hand side with Outnori, is it pushing up? So maybe it's a game for Harry Clark. I just kind of think that we fade so much in games, and I would rather start with Clark and bring on Johnson than the other way round. Anyway. Burgess agrees with the chat very much. Big on Burgess. Here's Colin. Undroppable, he says. Do you agree? I think
you can't drop him after last weekend. He was so imperious, wasn't he? How many times was he the guy to get their head on the ball, the last ditch tackle, got himself an assist? I thought when Greaves came back in against Leicester, we'd kind of see O'Shea and Greaves look to build a partnership moving forward, but I thought Burgess was absolutely superb last weekend, and I fully expect him to start.
Centre mid. What are you doing?
Well, this is the strange one. Obviously, Morsey plus one other. I presume because Karius had the kind of the week off, so it's he came on against Bournemouth very late on in the game. I think you bring Karius back in alongside Mr. Morsey. I thought Jack Taylor did okay, but I like Karius' extra kind of physicality, know-how, running power. So I'd have Karius alongside Morsey. Calvin Phillips, don't really know. No one knows what's going on with that. Didn't play a minute in the 3-game week. Was on the bench twice, wasn't he, for the Leicester and Palace games, but didn't feature. So if you can get him fit, get him on the pitch, happy days. He should be our best player by a mile, but for whatever reason, he can't quite get himself there at the moment. So I'll go Morsey and Karius.
Same, happy with that. Yeah, I think we missed Karius last week, so it'd be good to have him back. And the front four, you're saying same as Bournemouth.
I don't think I'd change it. Yeah, I'd have Amari on the right, Chaplin in the 10. Absolutely delighted when he scored that goal at the weekend, especially because it was a cutback and a trademark, Connor Chaplin finish. So really happy for him. You see what it means to him. So yeah, no issue him starting in the 10 again. And Schmodic down the left had that good chance to make it 2-0, but it's an away game. He'll hassle, he'll run around all day for you. And then through the middle has to be Delap, given the striking situation we find ourselves in.
Yeah, a few whispers that Hurst might be back before the end of the year. We have no real certainty whether that's conjecture or whether there's any fact behind it, but it is a massive problem which will get addressed in 3 weeks' time. But it's not great, is it, to have to call on Ali Al-Mahdi, who is not necessarily fully fit, but it's 2-level jump for him, isn't it? At least. So we, it is what it is. And Smodic's back in on the left-hand side rather than Clark?
Yeah. I'd have Smodic, like I say, away from home. He runs, he hassles, he'll run all day for you. So I'll give him 3 goals away from home. He's not scored a point, has he? 3 goals away from home.
I was going to mention this. Is it a good time to play away from home anyway? Our only win at Spurs. We need to harness the spirit of Spurs, don't we, Seb?
Yeah, or the first kind of half an hour against Brentford, because you're doing it against a lesser quality team. If we were to go 2-0 up in the first 20 minutes or whatever it was, like we did at Brentford at Molineux, I would bet a lot of money we will see the game out, because the crowd will turn, the Wolves players' confidence will be destroyed. And as we know, they do ship goals, so we will get chances.
There we go. Put that on your podcast. We will end with predictions, so start thinking about those. But let's talk about the FPL feature. Thank you to Brett Vale and their support of this feature. They've got a combo of deals for Blue Monday subscribers. If you rock up there and mention our name, second club membership through to the spring, and a top up for your for a bar card. But if you are in the area looking for a nice welcoming place for a round of golf in winter, which isn't necessarily my bag, but in lovely surroundings in Constable Country, Brett Vale, check them out on Instagram, Brett Vale Golf. And there's a link in the description as well. You can click through there to get more details. So thank you to them, and apologies that it's just not a competitive feature this season, sadly. Here's the latest stats. Wasted Mbuemo on the bench, and look what it's cost me. Another week where Seb wins 9-5 head-to-head, 130 points the difference. What a disgrace. I am rubbish, frankly. And this week I've made no transfers. I've got 2 Arsenal players in my backline, and they'll be the ones that won't score from a corner, annoyingly. Hutchinson I've benched to bring in Mbuemo, who'll do nothing. I've got Chris Wood. Ollie Watkins won't score. And it will be the weekend that Cole Palmer does nothing against Brentford. So all in all, really excited for the weekend coming up. What about you?
You're getting to the stage now. Do you remember that "Come Dine With Me" scene where the guy wins and just takes it really badly and says you have all the decorum of a reversing dump truck? I think you're basically at that stage at the moment, aren't you? I've made no changes. Why would I? It's relatively easy and effortless at this point. I've kept Amad Diallo in for my midfield. I have benched João Pedro. I didn't bench him, sorry. I've swapped him round. So João Pedro will be my first sub to come on in the event of a non-player. Mo Salah didn't play last week because the Merseyside derby was suspended, so postponed. So yeah, you take in my excellent points, and I didn't even have Mo Salah playing. So there we go. Yeah, I think Streaky sums up in the chat there. Team Rich need to sack their manager.
Yeah, well, I need to bring in the assistant manager chip, don't I, and get some help. We're not going to bother with that, are we? We can't really figure out the point of that, can we? So it's going to be excluded. But yeah,
I'm definitely going to use that feature. So just
fair enough. There you go.
Manage your expectations.
Lovely. Thank you to Brett Vale once again. Let's move us on. Start getting your predictions in for Wolves Ipswich. If you've got any questions or thoughts that you want to put to Seb, flag them accordingly in the chat as well. We've got plenty of time to go. We've been efficient this week. We haven't had a huge amount of news to talk about. So let's have our nice, lovely little FPL jingle in once more. I see the predictions are coming in, so thank you everyone for those. We'll come in a sec. Do you want to go first, Seb? Give us your thoughts.
Well, when we did our kind of upcoming forecast of scores a few weeks ago, I had it down as a draw, but because I had the Leicester game down as a win and Bournemouth down as a draw, I think it was, or Palace, I can't remember. I'm going to change my mind. I think we're going to win. I'm bored of predicting draws and, you know, defeats and stuff. So they concede goals. I think we will win 2-1. I think they'll score because they do score goals. I think we will win 2-1, and I'm going to say we're going to score a goal from a set piece because we haven't yet so far this season. We were bemoaning it about 20 minutes ago, and they are crap at defending set pieces. So a 2-1 victory with a goal from a set piece.
We're manifesting. It's definitely worked so far, so we're going to continue it. I've got a head of 2-2 and a heart of 2-1, like Tottenham. The spirit of Tottenham is what we're going for. I should have put my Murit shirt on and tried to bring that spirit again. Maybe I'll wear it on Saturday. Trevor could do with a win, but think it'll be 2-2. Chris is going for a 3-1. 3-1. There's a lot of confidence, Seb. Delap, Hutch, Smodic goals, all in the first half and a squeaky bum second half, perhaps. Lynn also going for the 2-1. Greg going for a 3-3. Good value. A lovely one for the neutral. Neil also going for a 2-1. Paul's going for a 1-1. 3-1. Dr. Zach King, loving that. Jules going for a 2-1. Hope I can call you Jules. Jem, 2-1. Have I already done Jem? No, didn't. Colin, a lot of 2-1, Seb. Lot of 2-1s. John, a 4-2. 6-goal stunner. There you have. Alex, 1-1. Oh, sure, no. Hope I'm wrong. 3-0. Doesn't say to who. Might be a Wolves fan. Who knows, Sean? Let us know. Clarify, show the working. Streaky's come back with a prediction. Didn't do it last week. Went for positivity, but now giving us a scoreline, and that will be the difference, Streaky. God bless you for giving us a scoreline prediction. Horseholler, a 2-1 to Wolves. Bite me, he says. We won't pin that and come back to it next week. Horseholler, maybe because you'll be right, and then we'll look silly, won't we? Puzzle OZ, 2-2. Tom in it, got to be 4-0. Doesn't say to who. And Sean's an Ipswich fan. Bless you, Sean. But you are entitled to your opinion and your predictions on anything. Thank you for sharing it with us. Any thoughts on the game on Sunday? Any last predictions? Any questions for Seb? Get them in now before we say goodbye. Just to remind you, it's your turn to say the final farewell, isn't it, this time, Seb? Because I did it last week.
I guess it will be because we lost, didn't we? So
yeah, it
has to flip reverse again.
So a few things to draw your attention to once again. We do have there's a guest spot. I've provided some guest thoughts for, I think it's called Always Wolves Fan TV, our friends in the TalkSport Fan Network. So we'll promote that at some point, and you can see me talk about the game in very uncertain and trepidatious terms, as I tend to do. But as always, thumbs up, very much appreciated before you say goodbye. Do subscribe as well. Content landing in your inbox every few days from here at Blue Monday. But as always, Flagship back 8 p.m. live, continuing the discussion after the fact, with a bit more time to process emotions than we had perhaps after Bournemouth. If you want to join in the Telegram group, that is available to you, 2-week free trial. So perfect time to join us just before Christmas and get involved in the chat. Yeah, what else have I got to talk about? Prediction show. Go and watch Mikey and Ben give their take on the weekend's games, including this one, back on our YouTube channel too. I think apart from that, so there's some Ted Lasso quotes. John, as Ted Lasso would say, believe. Chris, believe. There you go. Seb, Colin asked, what would your guess be of the new sponsor of the West Stand, or the Pioneer, as he calls it? I think that's been alluded to, or someone's mentioning it out there. I don't think we know the answer. What would be a really good, ironic, comedic, funny sponsor for the West Stand?
Some sort of oxygen pun that you can unveil, and we can discuss how we've got so much oxygen at Pulmonary. Some sort of I can't think of any oxygen. Yeah, rocket fuel.
Be a company that specialises in access and egress. We could have them, maybe.
Yeah,
we're going to go with all the buzzwords. Bless Mark Ashton, we love him really. Yeah, I'm trying to think of something that's Premier League or relegation related, but I don't want to go there. We'll keep it positive. We've done so well, then I'm dragging us all down.
Oh, Tom's nailed it in the chat. O2, of course. The mobile phone provider, they can sponsor it. The O2 stand, because obviously that's oxygen, isn't it, in chemical stuff.
Brilliant.
That's very good,
Brilliant.
Tom.
Tom,
That's what we were trying to get to, that you'd made us look really foolish for doing, so well done.
I was buying time for Tom to post that message. Tom, you've won the podcast this week. You've won the live chat. Bless you. Thank you for that. And thank you for the question, Colin. Jem, the Ed Sheeran stand. I mean, he basically owns it, doesn't he, with his box? So, yeah, there you go. Seb, get your last thoughts in the chat. I'm happy to help where I can, says Tom. Good one, Tom. Thank you for that one. Stick around for the end. This is the gold. The gold is at the end of the podcast. Yeah, Seb, let's sign us out. We've got, give us your final thoughts. Thank you as always for your research. I appreciate that. I will see you at Molineux on Saturday. Looking forward to that. Hopefully you and your traveling companion. And we'll see you there on Saturday.
Yes, thank you for hosting. This might be our last one before Christmas. So if I don't see you on the podcast before Christmas, have a good Christmas, and I hope your house move goes okay. And I'll just say, be positive, everyone. I know it was a tough week with the 3 games, then we lost them all, and it wasn't very good. And the goalkeeper's rubbish, and being in the Premier League is rubbish, and it's dark and it's cold. But be positive. This is so much better than it was being in League One. You know, we're seeing top-class talent. We're not a million miles away, folks. If we were losing 3 or 4-0 every week, then perhaps I'd agree a little bit to be a little bit more downbeat. But we are so close in games. And to quote the great football philosopher Paul Lambert, when it turns, it'll be really, really special. So, yeah.
Paul Lambert. Can you quote Ted Lasso?
I can't remember any Ted Lasso apart from all the rude Roy Kent quotes. So believe, everybody. Believe. We've got that strip at Molineux along the bottom. So let's be loud. Let's make the natives go toxic. Let's get our second away win of the season. The league table will look so much better if we do. And as we end this podcast, always on the Prematch show, come on, you Blues.